The city of Thunder Bay, bordering on the largest freshwater lake in the world, harbors a past built on trade and commerce. Now, this industrial city, surrounded by boreal forest on one side and decaying infrastructure on the other, continues with a great spirit to reinvent itself by being even bigger and better. New icons have been built, but old significant ones still remain, reminding us of time gone by. Follow us as we take to Lake Superior and discover a path that has both welcomed and warned nautical visitors to our inland sea. Come and journey with us on the Lighthouse Trail. Thunder Bay's waterfront has come a long way from the time of the Voyageur and the Cour de Bois, with new development taking place at Prince Arthur's Landing. Long forgotten and buried in the east end of the city is the foundation of Fort William and the location of our link to a trading empire from times long ago. The James Whalen tug, an icon of our past, is neglected now while docked on the Kaministiquia River near Thunder Bay City Hall. The Whalen tug in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s shuttled keepers to and from the North Shore lighthouses. Further up the Cam River, the Pool 8 elevator, now decommissioned, and the Jackknife Bridge can be seen. The bridge only lifts now to let pleasure craft pass. The pulp and paper industry still finds its home along the river, drawing water to produce paper products sent mostly to the United States. The waterfront serves many grain ships, with several grain elevators still active today. And the Port of Thunder Bay offers a small haven for some ship repair. Today, a handful of boat charters and boaters enjoy the pursuits of adventure on Lake Superior. In 1913, James Whalen made a booster film called Canada's Keys to the Great Lakes. This was at a time of intense activity along the lakehead's waterfront. Many grain elevators were necessary to manage the grain flow from the west, making the lakehead the predominant route to market. At this time, shipbuilding at the Western Dry Dock and Shipbuilding Company was in full swing, employing 1,200 men from the lakehead. Here, the steamer Noronic is getting decked out at the shipyard years before her tragic end in a fire in Toronto, claiming 180 lives. There were many vessels on the Great Lakes shipping grain and iron ore, coal, gas, and passengers, and during spring breakup, it was the job of the James Whalen tug to clear a path through the harbour ice so the shipping season could begin. A familiar sight today is the breakwall, which serves to protect docked vessels in the port. The Sigma, James Whalen's private yacht, is returning to port with many prominent people aboard, including the general manager of the CPR, whose interests were in the movement of bulk products along the rail and across the lakes. The general manager would have known the importance of lighthouses along the Great Lakes route, as Port Arthur's first lighthouse was constructed by the CPR in 1882. We'll take a journey towards the east from the lakehead and explore lighthouses that have guided commerce for over 160 years. Our tour will begin with Thunder Bay, Maine, situated on the breakwall just a couple of kilometers offshore from the city. Within view of the city, we'll take some photographs while visiting the Welcome Island Light Station. At Angus Island, we'll see how rugged and windswept this island really is. At Trowbridge Island Light Station, we'll find out why the light is so historic. We'll stop in at Silver Islet and we'll venture across Black Bay to Point Porphyry Lighthouse, where we'll take a closer look at the facilities. Then to the oldest lighthouse on our tour, number 10. We'll also explore the mysteries of Lamb Island, take a hike up St. Ignace Island for a spectacular view, and finish on Battle Island. Our journey will take us 160 kilometers to the east, finishing near Rossport. Thunder Bay, Maine is perched on the breakwall that contains the harbor and saves docked ships from the constant wave action of Lake Superior. The structure stands 48 feet high and is owned by the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, which surplus this lighthouse along with 1,000 others across the country. Gone are the days when these lighthouses were manned. The last lighthouse keeper left in 1979 when the system became automated. Today, this system consists of a light, a battery, and a solar panel. In 1937, before the Second World War, drawings were made up for the second lighthouse of Thunder Bay. But it wasn't until 1944 when the light became operational. One of the keepers of the light was Senator Bob McKay, seen here operating the radio, sending in his daily reports. May 19th, 1971 was a day to remember as an unexpected visitor dropped in. The motor vessel Simcoe collided and shifted the light from its foundations. The light was shut down for several months during repair. Today, the light is maintained by the Canadian Coast Guard, but it's pretty much abandoned except for the occasional boater. The two-story wood structure accommodates an engine room on the first floor and living quarters on the second floor. The square structure measures 22 by 22 feet. Over the years, several lighthouse keepers and assistants would make this place home during the shipping season. There was indoor plumbing, including a 3-piece bathroom, kitchen, and bedrooms. From all reports, lighthouse keepers did have a problem sleeping at night when the foghorn was sounding. At dusk each night, the keeper would climb a couple of ladders to reach the lantern room. Now, a flashing red light appears every 7.5 seconds to safely guide boats through the channel. From Thunder Bay, Maine, a direct connection to our natural beauty can be established without having the view blocked by grain elevators and transshipment infrastructures. Next, we move into nature to explore 7 more lighthouses on Lake Superior. To take us on our lighthouse tour, Nina, a wooden craft built in 1955, will take us there. Our first stop, the Welcome Islands. From an aerial picture, we can see many houses and a workshed that keeps the light tower on the right operating. Many resources are required to operate a light. That's why it's called a light station. With Nina docked in the Welcome Islands, Pie Island, a local landmark, can be seen in the background. As this island is privately owned, visitors are allowed to follow some simple rules. Following the signs from the bay, visitors are directed to hike uphill and inland a few kilometers. Upon the craggy cliffs overlooking Thunder Bay, Jesuit priests first made landfall here in 1669. 2 houses on the site provide accommodations for the keeper's family and his assistant. This was the standard for most light stations. In the 1960s, the wooden lighthouse was taken down and a steel tower was erected in its place. Venturing further to the east, the extensive size of Pie Island can be seen while a ship cuts a straight path to the city of Thunder Bay. Our next destination is Angus Island. Just off the headland of Pie Island, a small island can be seen. In its heyday, Angus Island Light Station had a lot of structures as shown in this postcard. The feet of the giant can be seen in the distance. The severity of a Lake Superior winter can never be underestimated as the swirling mist comes off the water and an ice-encrusted tomb prevails, only to get bigger. Today the island has only one outbuilding and a light tower, and it's fully automated. Looking towards the west and with the feet of the giant in the background, Trowbridge Island is located 24 kilometers east of the city of Thunder Bay. The island's light can be seen from many kilometers away and was constructed in 1924 after a ship laden with rails was blown onto the reef and sank. Photographers and visitors enjoy the view of the island with its many buildings, and when they arrive, the peaceful, tranquil atmosphere surrounds them. From a Coast Guard helicopter, a square landing pad can be seen. The lighthouse is perched on the highest point. Wind chimes welcome you to the main house, and looming overhead, the lighthouse with its Fresnel lens from France waits for nightfall.
I can hardly wait to see that lighthouse.
Oh, look at the spectacular view.
How many stairs are these?
99.
And after climbing up 103 feet, you reach the top of the hill. Inside the concrete octagon lighthouse, a keeper's bed is still ready. A steel ladder leads to the lantern room above. This Fresnel lens is the only one on Lake Superior and has been lovingly looked after by the Canadian Coast Guard over the years.
See this door here. Yeah, it's quite ingenious. Quite a view here, huh? I think that's Mervyn Island. And then the bigger one there is Shaganosh Island. Over there is Ship Island.
With increased winds and wave action on Lake Superior, it's time to sit tight at Silver Islet Dock beside the familiar Silver Islet General Store. Tomorrow we'll cross over to the eastern side of Black Bay. The day-to-day operation of a light station was guided by an instruction booklet for lighthouse keepers and alarm engineers. Lighthouse keepers were hardy people who had to be self-reliant, and Peter Belanger was one of those men. Here, Ed McKay, his sister Frances, and her daughter Flora posed for a picture in the engine room, and later a family portrait was taken at Point Porphyry Lighthouse. Point Porphyry is situated on the east side of Black Bay, 13 kilometers from Silver Islet. The island takes its name from the volcanic crystal found in the rock, which can be found all over the islands across the archipelago. My first stop on this island adventure is found at the dock, where the boathouse would have kept the lighthouse keeper's boat safe all season if necessary. A winch is found nearby, and after all these years you can still turn the handle. In the bush along the shoreline can be found an old boat, hauled up in the 60s. The North Star, as she was known, was a commercial fishing tug that worked the north shore of Lake Superior. Not far away in the bay is a boiler of another vessel, and painted on the side can be seen a watermark from 1974. The boiler belongs to the vessel Grebe. Many years later, at the same dock in the 1980s, a Coast Guard technician is seen leaving to service the light. My next adventure is to explore the light station inland. Venturing down the old dock road to the lighthouse takes around 15 minutes. Some maintenance of the trail is certainly in order. The eastern part of Porphyry Island is a provincial national reserve where you may catch a glimpse of some wildlife. Flowers can be seen everywhere on the grounds. The light station was the second light to be operational on Lake Superior and was opened July 1st, 1873. The boreal forest and the black rocks of Porphyry Island are in a constant battle against the unrelenting wave action of Lake Superior. 100 years ago, in the Great Storm of November 1913, 25 to 30-foot waves were registered here. Porphyry is a variety of igneous rock of purple and red, and the rock is also known for its extreme hardness. There are two houses situated on the site for living. This house, the main house, has been broken into previously with some vandalism taking place. Walking around, you can see it's a bit of a mess, but not necessarily unmanageable. Looking out from the front deck, you can see a familiar sight for Thunder Bayites, the sleeping giant's head. In 1960, the lighthouse and support framework was constructed, and later in 1979, the light was automated, ending over 100 years of lighthouse keeping at this location. From the headlands of Porphyry, you can see what the voyageurs would have seen just before reaching Fort William, the sleeping giant. Many people are unaware that the view of the giant is just as spectacular from the east side as it is from the west. What other natural forms can boast this feature? Returning to the boathouse, it's time to pack up for the night. Aboard Nina, with the moon behind the clouds and a nice toasty fire, it's time to turn in for the night. Sailing on Lake Superior is a pastime taken up by a couple of hundred people in the area. Lighthouses provide a safe haven and a destination to visit for these sailors. Traveling in a dinghy towards the west, number 10 light comes into view. At one time, the light was accompanied with a house and other buildings. The site is now fully automated and has been this way since 1954. Standing at 24 feet high, the square wooden tower was constructed in 1922. It makes it one of the oldest on the North Shore. The light is used to guide boats along the North Channel on the way to and from the Nipigon Straits. Taking a look inside, you can see how the lighthouse structure was constructed. This was the second light built on this site, as the original was destroyed by fire in 1922. Taking the North Channel another 30 kilometers to the east, Lamb Island is our next destination. The James Whalen tug used to shuttle keepers here in the 30s, 40s, and 50s until helicopters arrived in the 60s. The first lighthouse was established here in 1877, pointing out the way to the western entrance to Nipigon Bay, while also guiding ships west to Thunder Bay. Old rails from the water used to help guide the lighthouse keeper's boat into the boathouse. The main house, situated on the top of the hill, looks very much like a square box that's raised off the ground with exposed basement and 2 floors above. To access the place, the lighthouse keeper had to walk along a long bridge, and peering in the window, you can see the effects of time. Looking out the front window, you can see Spar Island and the beginning of the Nipigon Straits. Beautiful flowers surround the second house, and up on the hill, a 40-foot steel tower was installed in the early 60s. Arriving on Ignace Island, I climbed 1,200 feet to the summit of Mount Ignace to see the view. First, I had to make it past several majestic waterfalls. Looking towards the west, we're at the highest elevation on Superior and on the second biggest island. The island gets its name from the Jesuit missionaries who visited in 1669 while mapping out the area. Located 70 kilometers away, the outline of the sleeping giant can be seen with a super long lens. Traveling 40 kilometers further to the east, we reach our final destination, Battle Island, near Rossport. Greeted by rocks and forest, this lighthouse certainly appears nestled in a boreal canopy, but it's not. A picture taken in the 60s by the Coast Guard shows us just how dynamic of a location it is. The early part of the century, the Mackay family again dominates the scene, with Charles Mackay serving over 35 years as a lighthouse keeper at this station. Walking down the poured concrete gangplank, we can see the tower standing 117 feet over Lake Superior. The octagon structure also is made of poured concrete. In 1877, when the light was constructed, it was to provide guidance for vessels entering the Wilson and Simpson channels to reach Nipigon Bay or the Rossport docks. The last lighthouse keeper, John Joyner, retired here in 1991, making him the last lighthouse keeper to serve at this location. On the north shore of Lake Superior, lighthouses and light stations are our connection to our past. The route to and from the lakehead is what helped build our great country. Now it's our turn to preserve, to protect, and remember where we came from by following the Lighthouse Trail.